Tonight, there's dysfunction around the council table in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, and one outspoken councillor has been suspended.
We have a responsibility to let the people know that if somebody is not doing the proper thing, then we have to take in hand what they're not doing right and make them accountable for what they're not doing right.
Constant outbursts, allegations of disrespect. They want the Supreme Court to step in and give that councillor his walking papers.
Any foreign seafarers that do work on the docks is a violation of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Where's the economic patriotism?
Well, they say cruise ships are cutting out St. John's dock workers and exploiting foreign crews in the process.
The work that the women did was always in the background.
Shining a light on their unsung heroines. We take you inside a new exhibit dedicated to the backbone of Bell Island's mining industry.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now on this Thanksgiving Day long weekend. Let's get to our top story. A series of expensive investigations is revealing tension around the political table in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips. It's all led to the suspension of an outspoken town councillor. Here and Now's Terry Roberts explains.
This seat at the Portugal Cove St. Phillips Council Chamber will be unoccupied for the next 3 months. And maybe even longer if the mayor gets her way. Do you want him back here?
I would have to say I would prefer to spend my last year in peace.
Here's the man at the center of it all, suspended councillor Darrell Harding. Here he is in friendlier times. Some councillors and staff say Harding is causing turmoil in this large, well-to-do town just outside St. John's. And these investigations seem to confirm it, that Harding's behavior during meetings is disrespectful and violates the town's code of conduct, even crosses the line into workplace harassment. Councillors complain that Harding is constantly interrupting, ignoring rules and monopolizing meetings, and challenging the chief administrative officer.
I haven't always been respected, and I think that came out in the report.
Darrell Harding is a brilliant man with regards to the plan. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that he's brilliant in. He's not brilliant in respecting others.
Harding can stretch a meeting up to 4 hours, according to the mayor. And she says his behavior did not change, even after sensitivity training. His outburst in September 2023 prompted the investigations.
He interrupted somebody, me maybe 10 times, but some councillor 24, 26 times. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back, I think.
So on October 1st, a highly charged meeting, council voted 4-2 to suspend Harding. No pay for 3 months. That's $6,000. But the town is going even further. It wants the Supreme Court to vacate Harding's seat, booting him off council for his last year in office.
I just hope that the judge sees it the way we do and the investigator saw it.
Harding is not doing interviews, but he denies any wrongdoing, tells investigators he's just doing the job he was elected to do. He's appealing his suspension in the Supreme Court. Harding has a reputation for stirring things up. He's been suspended before for behavior and conflict of interest. And earlier this year, he had a bitter falling out with the PC party in the lead-up to a provincial by-election. He ran as an independent and pulled in less than 2% of the vote. The culture inside this building is tense.
I have no problem being accountable, but I do think that everybody around the table deserves to be respected.
All this turmoil is costing taxpayers. The total bill for these 2 reports, more than $80,000. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Portugal Cove, St. Phillips.
Well, the Fish, Food and Allied Workers Union has gone to court to stop offshore draggers from fishing northern cod. The federal fisheries minister reopened the commercial cod fishery after a 32-year moratorium, increasing the total allowable catch from 13 to 18,000 tons and giving offshore draggers access to 6% of the quota. A federal court hearing was held Friday following an FFAW injunction looking to ban offshore draggers from accessing the fishery until a judicial review of the decision is completed. FFAW President Greg Priddy says draggers would cause irreparable harm to the cod stock.
So it's important that that be stopped. You know what happened here, the minister's awful decision. She's a shill for corporate Canada, for offshore companies. She's given away the reds, she's given away our cod, and that needs to stop, it needs to be fixed. So if there's justice, and we hope there is, that judge will make a decision to stop that order and back that minister up, and let's do this thing properly.
Now, Priddy also says he's hoping the judge will have a ruling on the injunction sometime this week. Well, the Longshoremen's Protective Union, known as the LSPU, is accusing cruise ships of using foreign nationals to unload luggage, something it says violates immigration law. The LSPU says it also undermines local dock workers. The group staged a protest over the weekend at the harborfront.
There's issues with being excluded from our work. We have junior members that don't have enough work to have a good standard of living and to make family-sustaining wages. And we want to protect the foreign seafarers that come to our ports as well, to make sure that they're not exploited. And we want to stand up, obviously, for dock workers' rights. I have a release from the Canadian Border Services Agency back in December of 2020 that says that any foreign seafarers that do work on the docks is a violation of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. So where's Transport Canada and the Public Safety Ministry of Canada in all this? We've caught foreign seafarers unloading luggage about 3 weeks ago. So we've been making it an issue since then, and we'll be continuing to make it an issue. If the act was changed, if something was changed in the act, we want to know who changed it, when was it changed, and why was it changed? Because this is something that's never happened to us before in the history of our union. Our recognition was always respected. This is an issue in Atlantic Canada right now on the docks, where cruise vessels seem to be ignoring the dockers unions in the Atlantic region. They're having issues in Halifax and Corner Brook as well. We have grievances filed with our employer. We also are looking at filing complaints with the Canadian Industrial Relations Board, and we'll be continuing to lobby the politicians of our province, provincial and federally, as well as our mayor. It remains to be seen what transpires between now and the cruise season next year, but we're going to be vigilant in making sure we keep light shed on this issue.
Well, St. John's sports journalist Brendan McCarthy has died at the age of 66. McCarthy got his start at Q Radio and went on to be a sports writer for 3 decades with the Telegram newspaper. He also provided color commentary of hockey games for VOCM and often shared his insights as a guest here at CBC. His years in the business earned him the nickname Hockey Prof. And in 2022, McCarthy was inducted into the province's Hockey Hall of Fame. The Newfoundland Growlers created this video back in 2019, showing Brendan continuing to work even throughout his cancer treatment. McCarthy battled leukemia for 15 years. Bell Island's rich mining history is often remembered through the perspective of the men who worked underground, but a new art installation at the No. 2 Mine Tour and Museum on Bell Island aims to change that. It's called Our Unsung Heroines and pays tribute to the contributions women have made.
This woman has lost her husband to an accident in the mine. She goes to the company and says, I've lost my husband. I'm not able to feed my children on this amount of money. And they say to her, we will hire your son. So this piece tells about the 14-year-old boy who's going to work in the same mine that his father was just taken out of as a casualty. And she is praying that her 14-year-old son will be able to go to work and not succumb to the same fate that his father had. So on Saturday, September the 28th, we unveiled a new exhibit at our No. 2 Mine Tour and Museum, and it's entitled The Unsung Heroines. So prior to that, this entire museum focused on the work of the men. So there was nothing in this museum that talked about the mothers, who were the backbone of the home. So we thought that we need to do something to memorialize the women, to thank them for the work that they had done. And so that evolved into this exhibit. You have two children, a little boy and a little girl, and they're doing their books by the light of the kerosene lamp. And it says in the narration that most likely the mother will check their spelling and their arithmetic before they go to bed. The work that the women did was always in the background, because if the women weren't at home, looking after the children, looking after the livestock, looking after the garden, looking after the home, the men would not have been able to work. The cutest thing about this entire piece is the livestock. And if you're looking really closely at the sheep, you'll notice that they're pink, because on Bell Island, because of the iron ore dust, everything was pink. The laundry that you put on the line was pink. The white cats were pink. The cows were pink. I commissioned Pam King and her husband Kevin Fouché. We wanted to include the garden because that's where the women spent a lot of their time. We needed to talk about the home. They cooked in the home. They looked after the children in the home. They did the wash in the home. So everything was done in the home. But we also needed to talk about the most poignant piece, and that was when the miner was lost. We had 107 men killed in the mine. They left behind mothers, they left behind wives, they left behind daughters, but they left behind an entire family that had to be looked after by somebody. And I will tell you that when Pam would bring down a piece for me to see, once the cover came off the crate, I cried, she cried. It was incredible, because she will tell you a piece of her went into this art because her mother and her grandmother were also part of the mining era, as were mine, as were my mother and grandmother-in-law. So for us, it came from the heart.
Windy and unsettled weather over the next couple of days as this system moves in with rain and, yes, snow in the mix. Your full forecast is coming up. Time for a check of your full weather forecast. Ryan Snodden in for Ashley this evening. And yeah, let's talk about this system that's rolling its way in and increasing clouds today. Some wet weather already starting to skirt in along the south coast of the island, but that is really just the appetizer, the full meal deal here, rolling it across the Maritimes today with heavier rain and some rumbles of thunder, and yes, snow on the backside of this system, spreading down the higher terrain areas into New England, and yes, lower parts of Quebec. So yeah, this system has it all, along with some gusty winds as well, which we'll be picking up tonight from the southeast. Temperatures, yeah, 8 to 10 degrees for the south coast, 4 or 5 degrees for the north, and up towards Corner Brook near 7. But those temperatures bumping up as we work our way into tomorrow morning. You can see temperatures below the freezing mark here in Labrador with that cold air in place ahead of that system. Now, as we move into tomorrow morning, again, you can see still quiet for Labrador City to Goose Bay, though the lower north shore of Quebec into the mix overnight. And yes, the island into the mix with those periods of rain beginning overnight. And the winds are going to be quite gusty in from the southeast with this system moving in, then shifting to more of a southerly direction into the afternoon as the system comes through. And the winds will actually back to southwest by the end of the afternoon for the west coast of the island. You can see some drier air starting to work its way in and around the center of this low. So not a washout here for the west coast, but pretty wet from start to finish for the Avalon. And yes, snow tracking into Labrador City. I know this is showing snow here through the southeast, and no doubt the Mealy Mountains into some snow for tomorrow if you're traveling between Cartwright and Happy Valley Goose Bay. But it looks like temperatures will be just warm enough at the surface that Goose Bay and Cartwright themselves, those locations, likely just rain, though that will change tomorrow evening as we'll likely see some of those wetter flakes starting to mix in. But again, higher terrain areas between those two communities and between Goose Bay and the Strait, definitely going to be looking at some snow over the Mealy Mountains tomorrow. Look at the temperatures across the island, 15, 16, 17 degrees. Again, a southeast wind primarily, shifting to more southerly into the afternoon. And those southeast winds will gust to 80 kilometers per hour late overnight into tomorrow morning along that west coast before that shift to a southwest wind. So a heads up on that. That system starting to break down and actually splits into two lows as we move into Wednesday with just a lot of unsettled weather here and the clouds dominating. Yes, snow mixing in even for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Not so sure we'll see it in Cartwright and down to the Strait, but certainly lots of wet snow mixing in here over the next couple of days in through much of Labrador. And we will be seeing temperatures cooler, but still mild, though back into the single digits for Corner Brook. Now that low departs, and you can see by the time we get to Thursday, starting to see some drier air work its way in on the backside of this system. And so we'll start to see a little bit of sunshine, at least breaking into the afternoon. That said, clouds still certainly dominating Thursday for the most part. Note those temperatures ticking down, down, down. By the time we clear right out, Friday into Saturday, back into some sunshine with a mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures, yeah, high single digits for Friday, Saturday, likely into Sunday as well. Though our next system will be starting to approach by then, so we'll keep you posted on that. You can see unsettled weather Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday into central Newfoundland. Temperatures dropping towards 7. How about some of these overnight lows by the time we get to Friday morning, waking up to the freezing mark. So definitely some frosty windshields by the time we get to the end of the week. The west coast also looking quite unsettled the next 3 days with showers, again, off and on for Wednesday and into Thursday. And we'll see for Friday into Saturday, yeah, generally a mix of sun and cloud. And those temperatures, again, pretty chilly to start the day for both Friday and then again on Saturday. Looks like, by the way, Sunday should still be okay for the island. Labrador will likely see that next system starting to work in, certainly eastern Labrador by Sunday. And how about this forecast again? Wet snow likely mixing in for Tuesday, late day for Happy Valley Goose Bay, but more so for Wednesday with some wet flakes certainly on the go. Temperatures, again, starting near the freezing mark up to around 4 degrees. So we'll likely see that wet snow mixing in for a good chunk of the day. Could even see some wet flakes on Thursday before a mix over to showers before that system finally moves its way out. And Western Labrador, yes, wet snow the next couple of days. Not expecting a lot in terms of accumulation, but much like this morning, waking up to some windshields and grass covered certainly, and that wet snow will mix in likely much of this week through the morning hours before temperatures bump up towards the weekend. That is your forecast now. Carolyn, back to you.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Well, people passing through downtown St. John's Saturday afternoon were treated to the sounds of samba, tango, and the cha-cha. For the second year in a row, artists from Latin America and Spain came together for a heritage festival.
This heritage concert is an opportunity to remember, celebrate, and educate new generations about the outstanding achievements and contributions of the Latino and Hispanic people in the province. We are used to listen these rhythms. We are used to listen the Spanish as a language. So for us, it's also a part of integrate. And the association kind of do that. We try to help the people who just arrived to Canada to find information in their own language. So we try to help them, and we wanted to they feel at home. We have at the beginning samba from Brazil, then we have Vuelo Directo, that it's a Spanish group of rock and roll music from South America, Spain. Then we have a group of tango of the age, and then we have the La Paz band.
Also, we bring a lot from the 80s and 90s, the early 2000s, pop, rock, folk, whatever we like when we were growing up or whatever we like now, we discover it and then we bring it here, Spain and Latin American songs. I'm from Spain myself. We have other members in the band from different places, but I started the band with Spanish music from Spain. But we have members from other Latin American countries, or from the United States, or from Canada as well, of course, from Newfoundland as well. Newfoundland is home for me now, and I'm very happy here, and I have a family here, and a house, and all the rest of it, and a good job. But every now and again, do you remember the songs from when you were a teenager, the songs you fell in love with, or and you want to bring them? And that's a little bit of the reason why we started the band. There might be some other people here who want to listen live to those songs as well, from their youth, from years ago, and we try to bring that and coming together with people who are more or less perhaps doing the same with the songs from Mexico, the songs from Colombia, the songs from Argentina. Is great fun.
It's images of a life and of the construction of a community, because the church is just being built. It showed me what was going on in a world that's long behind us now.
So who are the faces and the figures in these old photos beautifully capturing rural Conception Bay? The answer is still to come in our special CBC presentation, Lost in Time.
Because of 3D.
Tails.
Well, tonight we're bringing you a special CBC NL presentation. We're calling it Lost in Time, a Newfoundland Mystery. Our story begins at an antique shop in rural Ontario where a collector uncovered decades-old photographs depicting figures and families, scenes of communities coming together in rural Newfoundland. I'll let our Jessica Singer take it from here.
I love those old pictures like this. Everybody looks like they were, you know, just posing for the pictures, eh?
Is that going on with Bob Short?
Yep.
Holy Jesus.
That's going to be Bob Short.
Yeah.
It's going out that side there, right up to the point. Just Rose's Cliff in the background.
A lot of history here.
Conception Bay North to solve a mystery. Along this coast, there's a string of towns. They're small, they're old, and everywhere you go, you see glimpses of the past. Now, that past has resurfaced unexpectedly. Rare photographs of rural Newfoundland from over 100 years ago, and they were found in an unlikely place, Ontario.
I was in a little town called Elmvale, picked up this lot of like 30 cards. They didn't have any mass-produced stamp on them, which many of the cards do. They are originals. Those ones were glued by hand, side by side. So I just turned them over and handwritten on some of the cards, not all of them, but some of them were these clues. Western Bay and Follett family. Stereoscope cards are images that were taken with a camera that had two lenses side by side, and so the photographs are the same image but taken just about an inch apart. When you put it in a little machine, then those images your eyes automatically pull them together the way our eyes do any image. They pull them together and it becomes 3D. There are images of this fishing village and its livelihood of going out in the boats and bringing back the catch. It's images of a life and of the construction of a community because the church is just being built. It showed me what was going on in a world that's long behind us now. Maybe someone would recognize some of the faces in these photographs that are just classic, beautiful, beautiful pictures of people. I love when there's people in the photographs, and I love when it's just what was going on. It allows you to, you know, because they're 3D, it creates this interesting kind of connection between the viewer and the person in the photograph. It makes them come alive. And part of it creates a bit of sadness in me because I think that they really belong to the family, and I would like the family to be able to reconnect with their relatives in some way. And this, man, that would be amazing to see a 3D picture of your grandmother. There's no identification who the photographer was. I'd love to know. The person who came to that community had a very special camera. The photographer was a cutting-edge person, someone who was trying to capture the world in the same way that an artist would say, oh, Western Bay is so beautiful, I'm going to paint the coastline. Someone went to Western Bay and thought, this is something that the world needs to see.
But these old photos disappeared from the world until now. Who are these people? Where are they standing? What's there now? Who can figure that out? We're here to ask for help.
I'm Dave King, and we're here in Broad Cove right now.
And where are we sitting?
In downtown Broad Cove, in my garage.
You call this downtown?
Downtown. The shed here is basically a place where most of us that grew up together, we all hangs out to Friday night, Saturday, and anything on the go, any parties or anything is always here in the garage. I'd say our family is one of the original people that settled in Broad Cove. The Kings and the LeGros were some of the first people that settled this community. I'm fascinated with all the history around here.
Why?
I want to know how we got here, why we came here, and how come we ended up staying here.
And so when did you start looking into things?
Oh, a long time ago. Long time. I've been at this for years, looking and researching, asking questions. All the old people, I like picking their brain, asking the questions. Just to see the way people lived years ago. It's crazy, people years ago. There's no lights, there's no electricity. I'd estimate, in my guess, 1904, 1905, if they're all took in the same year. 1908 at the latest.
Dave loves this place. He didn't have to look long at the pictures to know exactly where some of them were taken. Woohoo! Ahoy!
Oh, hello.
Where are you taking us to first?
Broad Cove Church.
And that's the one that burned down?
That one there.
Okay, let's go take a look.
That's the church there that burned down. But that's built on the same spot. This is built in the same spot as the old church.
Yeah. And then this one was built, I guess, a few years after it burned down.
It wasn't long after it burned because people hadn't had their church.
Not anymore, though, I guess, eh?
No. Not today. You can see the church is all grown up.
Yeah.
Most of the churches here are closed. Right here. Now you're going up Woodcat Hill. Watch the view you're going to see when you get up there. As soon as you see the road, that's Broad Cove, there's no question.
So what do you think the people here were doing? Were they just fishing for the community? Were they selling it? Like, what do you think people were doing here at this beach?
I said they're getting water to wash fish. This guy here, he got a cast net. He's off those rocks right there with a cast net casting for capelin. That's the oldest picture of Broad Cove or Blackhead I've ever seen.
You've never seen a stereographed picture of Newfoundland?
No. Well, he had a camera back then. Not everybody had a camera. They were expensive to do back in 1900, 1902.
So you think this was someone from away?
Definitely.
You know Newfoundlanders would have this?
Well, I doubt that they could afford it.
The house we're in right now, my grandfather built this in about 1920. Dad was born here, I grew up here. Oh, that's coming out, that's called Riverhead, right?
There's no road there.
No, that's washed out too.
Yeah.
What happened?
No, the sea erosion, right? Sea. Climate change, I suppose.
Do you remember driving down that road?
What?
Have you ever driven down that road? Do you
Oh
remember?
Lord, yes, yes. That's a picture of Blackhead getting capelin. You know, that kind of stuff. Then when I was a kid, maybe 13, 14, believe it or not, I used to do that, yeah. That's the way I used to hold a net. It's just interesting to see how, years ago, how they worked. They had to work hard.
How many generations of your family have lived
I
here?
would say about four generations, my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents. Well, when I grew up here in those days, that's what we did too. We would spend all our time, you know, catching capelin, catching connors, catching flatfish off the wharf, you know. Spend all our time down there, It was beautiful. It was the most enjoyable time of your life. You were so carefree, and you never had a worry in the world, you know. And I look back at it now and I said how wonderful times we had growing up as kids.
We return now to our special presentation, Lost in Time, a Newfoundland mystery. Part 2 begins back in Broad Cove.
My maiden name is LeGros. The LaGros have been here in this vicinity, Broad Cove, Bailey Verde area, since the early 1700s.
What were summers like here?
It was a lot of fun. You know, we had friends here our same age. We would hike and try and catch capelin over in the capelin season in the beach and go on picnics and berry picking the things that kids did, in the outports. The smile on his face. They used them as fertilizer on their gardens.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. The smell was hideous. But, I mean, they had to use what they had.
The people here recognize the landscape and have fond memories of this place, but nobody could identify anybody in the photographs.
No.
Don't recognize him, do you, Doug?
But we do have a clue. Nathaniel and Emily Follett. Everyone here knows each other, so it didn't take long for Dave to introduce us to Brent Follett, who lives down the road in Western Bay.
They call me the mayor. But I'm like Dave. Whenever there's something happening that needs to be done, I'm there.
How long has your family been here in this area?
Probably some of the first settlers. My family came from northern England and Wales. We traced that. We know that part. This church here, the last person buried in that church was my father.
What about these? So these on the back say Nathaniel and Emily Follett's house. Do you recognize that house or the people in it?
I don't ever recall seeing this in any of the houses, but this, is that the steeple of the church there? This was probably taken from across the river here, facing this way.
Your last name Follett?
My name is Follett.
Yeah. Do you know? Do you recognize the name Nathaniel and Emily?
No, it's been a long time, but nobody kept the history.
Why do you love this place so much?
Just home, you know. And I know you feel different somehow. You smell the beach. There's a smell of money, it is. Some may fellas say, oh, that stink, but that's not a stink. That's perfume to us. I don't know where to steer you more. There's no Folletts other than some in Harbour Grace, a lot of them in Gander, I think, and like they're all over the world.
Bren doesn't recognize Nathaniel and Emily Follett, but we couldn't give up there, so we kept looking. And after finding old family records online, we found Peggy Halliburton back in Ontario.
My name is Peggy Halliburton, and I am the great-granddaughter of Emily and Nathaniel Follett. I was sort of in shock when I first heard that you had found a picture of my great-grandparents in front of their house in Western Bay. Nobody had cameras. This would have been taken just around the turn of the century. They were still in Newfoundland at the time. We're talking in 1910 or something, this picture would have been taken. Newfoundland was not part of Canada. It had more of a connection with England. People came out from England to take those photographs of the so-called Commonwealth. They'd go to South Africa, they'd go to Newfoundland, they'd go anywhere that there was a Commonwealth country, so that the people in England could see what these strange, unusual places were like. For that to be one of the stereoscopes of my grandparents really hit home. Nathaniel and Emily are the 4th generation Folletts in Western Bay. they grew potatoes and onions and carrots and root vegetables, along with fishing. And here he is fishing out on a schooner. My great-grandmother had the only cow in Western Bay, so she would have supplied anybody with small children that needed milk. Emily and Nathaniel were both born in Western Bay. They were very, very intelligent people, very smart people. They had 9 children. Of those 9 children, one was my grandmother, who was a missionary, a Methodist missionary. Her sister, Pamela, was also a Methodist missionary. Charlie was a well-known minister in Toronto, Reverend Charles Follett. Charles brought Nathaniel and Emily to Toronto in their very senior years, once he was up about 1913 or so, and Nathaniel only lived for a few years after that. They were brought up because health care and everything was better here in Ontario for them in those senior years as they waned. So all that family line of Nathaniel came up. They came up and they immediately tried to lose their accents, where they were from. They turned their back on it in order to be successful, to get jobs in Toronto and to assimilate. I've always loved history, and one day I was talking to my father, and he started telling me a lot more about his Newfoundland roots. And all of a sudden this light bulb went off. I've got to write this down. Right now I have 1,000 people plus in my Follett family tree. You want to know who you are, why you do the quirky things that you do. It's your ancestry, it's your genetic makeup. Yes, you're influenced by your environment too, but I've got Follett earlobes. Like, where the heck did those things come from? And once I started to see the pictures of these ancestors and the ones I knew, I'm going, my God, have they got earlobes? You know what I mean? And that's who I am.
So we solved some of the mystery, but we still can't put a name to many of these faces. And there's the other mystery. Who took these pictures? Whoever the photographer was didn't know these photos would be a time machine, connecting this place and the people who shaped it.
To me, it's important to know where I came from.
Preserve the legacy of the community itself, the history of the community.
Somebody's got to tell the stories.
It's your history, it's who you are.
Yes, yeah.
These are people who made me who I am.
Org.
Well, the RCMP is following criminal activity allegedly orchestrated by agents of the Indian government. The Mounties say India has been using its officials in Canada to collect information, which is then used to target members of the South Asian community.
Investigations have revealed that Indian diplomats and consular officials based in Canada leverage their official position to engage in clandestine activities, such as collecting information for the Government of India, either directly or through their agents, and other individuals who acted voluntarily or through coercion. Evidence also shows that a wide variety of entities in Canada and abroad have been used by agents of the Government of India to collect information. Some of these individuals and businesses were coerced and threatened into working with the Government of India. The information collected by the Government of India is then used to target members of the South Asian community.
Well, Canada and India have announced the expulsion of each other's diplomats. 6 Canadians, including the High Commissioner and the Deputy High Commissioner, Stuart Wheeler, seen here earlier today, are being sent home. Canada has also expelled 6 Indian diplomats, including the High Commissioner.
Time for a final look at your forecast. Ryan Snodden in for Ashley this evening, and let's talk about that forecast for tomorrow. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, with the rain that tracks in tonight, temperatures very mild, 15, 16, 17 degrees tomorrow. Those winds, though, southeast then south, and they will be gusting for sure. 60, maybe 70 kilometers per hour along the coast, and up to 80 kilometers per hour in those downsloping winds along the long-range mountains for tomorrow. But we will see the shift to southwest winds into the afternoon, and that will actually ease the winds a little bit after they do shift. And again, it's a cold rain, Happy Valley, Goose Bay to Cartwright into the southeastern Labrador for the most part, but the Mealy Mountains, higher terrain areas into the snow, and we will see that snow in through Labrador City as well, not only tomorrow, but again on Wednesday. Flakes mixing in right into Goose Bay for Tuesday night in through Wednesday. And we'll see, the Mealy Mountains continuing to see some wet flakes and a breezy day, certainly across the island in the wake of this system. So again, there's that snow on the leading edge of this system. By the time we get to Tuesday around 5 o'clock, we'll see much of the wet weather having pushed north of the island, but still some lingering showers in here for later Tuesday. That system, again, starts to break down with scattered showers still possible throughout the day on Wednesday under mostly cloudy skies. There's that wet snow mixing in for a good chunk of Labrador on Wednesday. And then that low finally starting to kick out. Now, despite that fact that it is going to be well to the east, we're still going to be seeing a quite unsettled setup for Thursday with some cooler air aloft and just lots of unsettledness with the chance for showers mixing in throughout the day on Thursday. The good news is that some drier air beating down the door and busting its way into the region by the time we get to Friday and certainly into Saturday. So there is some brighter skies towards the end of the week. That is your forecast now. Carolyn, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you for spending part of your evening with us on this holiday. We hope you enjoyed tonight's special feature, Lost in Time, from our Jessica Singer and Mark Cumby. What a fabulous story. And that documentary also lives on our website if you'd like to watch it again, or if you want to direct someone to it. It's on our CBC NL YouTube page as well. And if you have any insights into the people in those pictures or the person behind the camera, we would love to hear from you. That's a mystery I would love to see solved. You can email us at hereandnow.nl@cbc.ca. And we hope you can join us again tomorrow. Thanks so much. Good night.